Hello, everybody. It's Mrs. Pound, and I am back with another chapter in Purposeful Designs Earth and Space Science. This is chapter 3.2 on earthquakes, and it's really quite related to our previous chapter 3.1 on plate movements because it's plate movements that cause earthquakes. So, the first thing we're going to take a look at in section 3.2.1 are the causes of earthquakes. So our objectives for this video are to summarize the connection between tectonic plate movement and earthquakes, infer why earthquakes vary in magnitude, and indicate the causes of earthquakes. So the first thing we need to know is that Earth's crust is in nearly constant motion, but remember we said it's very slow motion. That's why I have a picture of a snail there. In fact, it's slower than a snail. Okay, it's perhaps even centimeters per year, but the crust is moving. Noticeable earthquakes are caused when the crust suddenly resumes movement after a long time of being stuck. So I have this vehicle that is stuck in the mud. If they were to get unstuck, let's say they pulled with a rope or they could get the tires moving really fast, there would be a sudden jerk when it got unstuck. And that's a lot like an earthquake. And so that's why I have that picture there because the crust has a lot of uh, things on it that rock that gets caught and everything. So stress builds up and builds up and builds up, and then suddenly it will release. And that is what causes an earthquake. When we talk about earthquakes, we generally talk about their magnitude. This is the strength of an earthquake. And the strength of an earthquake really depends on how much of that stress builds up until it is finally released. And if a lot of stress builds up, you will have a very high magnitude earthquake. If there's just a little bit of stress, it will be a low magnitude earthquake. Some earthquakes are hardly even noticed. They might just cause perhaps things that are hanging on the window to shake a little bit. Other earthquakes cause great devastation if their magnitude is really high. So, an earthquake's magnitude depends on the amount of stress released. And I have rubber bands in the background because depending on how much you stretch that rubber band or how big that rubber band is, more stress will be released when you let go of it. And so, earthquakes are a lot like a rubber band in that way. So, some causes of earthquakes. The first cause is a shifting fault, which is what we're going to focus on in our class is talking about shifting faults on the edges of our plates. However, earthquakes can be caused by humans too. Perhaps the detonation of a nuclear device. So I have a picture of a nuclear bomb going off. That can cause an earthquake. Volcanoes, when they erupt, can also cause earthquakes. And volcanoes also tend to be located on the edges of these plates where earthquakes occur. And a collapsing building can also cause an earthquake. So if a very large building comes down, whether it's demolished or just happens to collapse for some reason, it can cause an earthquake. So earthquakes can be man-made and they can also just be caused by things occurring naturally in nature. So our objectives were to summarize the connection between tectonic plate movement and earthquakes, infer why earthquakes vary in magnitude, and indicate the causes of earthquakes. So don't forget your 5 questions, and I'll be back with more on earthquakes.